Have you ever felt like you're walking through life carrying a heavy weight, one made up of criticism, stress, and the constant expectations of others? Have you ever wished you could just let go? To no longer feel bothered by negativity, judgments, or the endless noise of the world around you? Imagine, for a moment, that you are standing in the middle of a raging storm. The winds howl, the rain beats down, and chaos swirls around you. Most people panic, desperately trying to shield themselves, running for cover, or cursing the storm itself. But you simply stand there, still, calm, undisturbed. The storm rages, yet it does not touch you. This is the power of inner peace. This is the essence of unshakable resilience. In our daily lives, we are constantly bombarded by external forces, negative comments, unexpected failures, disappointments, and emotional turbulence. These forces push and pull us, influencing our moods, reactions, and even our sense of self-worth. We get caught in an endless cycle of reacting to the world, allowing circumstances and people to dictate our peace. But what if there was another way? What if you could remain calm, centered, and in control, no matter what happens around you? Many believe that achieving this level of emotional mastery is impossible, that only monks, hermits, or those who renounce the world can truly find peace. But this is a myth. Inner peace is not about escaping life, it's about mastering the mind within it. It's about navigating challenges with clarity, embracing discomfort with understanding, and responding to life rather than reacting to it. And here's the secret: you don't need to isolate yourself in a monastery or meditate for hours a day to achieve this. You simply need the right mindset, the right approach. Buddhism, one of the world's oldest and most profound philosophies, offers timeless wisdom that can transform the way you experience life. In this discussion, we will explore 8 powerful lessons rooted in Buddhist thought, lessons that have guided millions of people toward a more peaceful and resilient existence. These teachings aren't just abstract concepts, they are practical, actionable insights that can help you let go of negativity, develop emotional strength, and live with unshakable clarity. What if you could stop being consumed by overthinking? What if the words of others no longer had the power to ruin your day? What if stress and worry could no longer shake your inner peace? These aren't distant dreams, they are achievable realities. By the end of this journey, you will have a new understanding of how to cultivate a mind that is free, strong, and unbothered by the noise of the world. So, take a deep breath. Set aside your distractions. This is your time to reclaim your peace. Let's embark on this transformative journey together. 1. Do not hate those who hate you. Hate is a fire that consumes not just its target, but the one who carries it. It spreads like a slow-burning flame, feeding on resentment, anger, and pain, leaving behind only suffering in its wake. When we encounter hostility, it is natural to feel the sting of injustice. We may want to push back, to defend ourselves, to prove a point. Yet, in doing so, we often become trapped in the very cycle we wish to escape. Buddhism teaches us that retaliation does not lead to resolution, it only strengthens the chains of suffering. Holding on to hatred is like gripping a hot coal with the intention of throwing it at someone, it only burns us in the process. Every moment spent dwelling on anger is a moment taken from our peace. Every grudge we nurture is a weight upon our soul, anchoring us to past wounds rather than allowing us to move forward freely. But if we do not fight back, does that mean we must accept mistreatment? Not at all. Rising above hatred is not an act of surrender, it is an act of self-liberation. It is a conscious decision to not let the darkness of others dictate our inner light. It is choosing wisdom over reaction, strength over bitterness, and clarity over turmoil. Those who lash out in hatred are often dealing with their own pain. Their anger is not truly about us, it is a reflection of their own struggles, their own wounds that have yet to heal. When someone directs negativity toward us, they are, in reality, revealing a deep suffering within themselves. Recognizing this shifts our perspective. Instead of reacting with hurt or defensiveness, we can respond with understanding. We see that their words and actions are not a statement of our worth, but rather an expression of their internal battle. When we meet hatred with anger, we absorb that negativity and make it our own. But when we meet it with indifference, or better yet, with compassion, we strip it of its power. The person spewing hate expects a reaction. They expect to provoke, to control our emotions, to see their pain reflected back at them. But what happens when we do not react? What happens when we refuse to take the bait? There is immense power in choosing peace. There is a quiet strength in letting go. Imagine someone shouting in anger, their face red, their voice sharp, expecting you to match their energy. But instead of reacting, you simply remain calm. Their words lose their weight. Their fury becomes their own burden to carry. This does not mean we tolerate harm or remain silent in the face of injustice. There is a difference between standing firm in our values and being consumed by negativity. We can speak our truth, set boundaries, and take action where necessary, without losing ourselves in resentment. Hate thrives on attention, on reaction, on engagement. When we disengage, it has nowhere to go. It fizzles out, dissolving like mist in the morning sun. This is how we reclaim our emotional freedom. This is how we rise above. But how do we put this into practice in our daily lives? It starts with awareness. The next time someone insults or mistreats you, pause before reacting. Take a breath. Ask yourself, is this worth my peace? If the answer is no, let it pass. Picture their words as a gust of wind, strong, perhaps, but temporary. It cannot shake you unless you let it. Consider this: has holding on to resentment ever truly made you feel better? Has anger ever brought you lasting relief? Or has it only drained you, stealing your energy, keeping you trapped in an emotional storm long after the moment has passed? Letting go of hate is not an act of weakness, it is an act of profound courage. It takes strength to choose peace when everything inside you wants to fight. It takes wisdom to recognize that your inner calm is far more valuable than proving a point. We cannot control how others act, but we can always control how we respond. And in that response lies our true power. The world will always have those who lash out, who seek conflict, who thrive on division. But that does not have to be our world. We can choose differently. We can choose peace. We can choose wisdom. We can choose to live unburdened by the anger of others, walking forward with lightness, clarity, and a heart unchained by hate. 2. Practice humility. Humility is one of the most misunderstood virtues. In a world where success is often measured by how loudly we proclaim our achievements, humility can seem like an outdated concept, even a weakness. We are taught to stand out, to prove our worth, to make sure others recognize our skills and talents. But true humility is not about diminishing ourselves, it is about removing the need for validation. It is the quiet confidence that allows us to step back, to listen, to learn, and to grow without the desperate need to be seen. Humility is not a lack of ambition. It does not mean we do not strive for greatness or that we do not take pride in our work. Instead, it means we do not allow our egos to be the driving force behind our actions. When we are humble, we understand that our value is not determined by external recognition, but by the depth of our character, the kindness we show, and the way we treat others. The truly wise do not need to announce their wisdom. The truly skilled do not need constant applause. A person who is secure in themselves has nothing to prove. The Buddha taught that wisdom is not found in speaking the loudest, nor is it in dazzling others with knowledge. True wisdom is lived, it is in our actions, in our ability to listen, in our openness to seeing beyond ourselves. The greatest minds of history, the most enlightened souls, were not those who sought status and recognition, but those who approached life with a willingness to learn. A wise person does not see themselves as above others but instead recognizes that life is a continuous journey of discovery. There is a quiet strength in admitting we do not have all the answers. In fact, the greatest leaders, the most respected teachers, are those who acknowledge that they, too, are students of life. The moment we believe we have nothing left to learn is the moment we stop growing. When we allow our egos to dictate our actions, we close ourselves off to wisdom, to new perspectives, and to the deeper understanding of the world around us. In contrast, humility opens doors. It invites connection. When we are truly humble, we do not listen simply to respond, we listen to understand. We do not dismiss others because we think we know better, we remain curious, willing to see the world from another point of view. Humility allows us to step into any room, into any conversation, and recognize that every person has something valuable to teach us. But how do we practice humility in a world that constantly pushes us to prove our worth? It begins with shifting our focus. Instead of seeking validation, we turn inward and ask, am I growing? Am I learning? Am I becoming a better version of myself? The moment we start prioritizing self-improvement over recognition, we begin to experience true fulfillment. Because no external praise, no award, no fleeting moment of applause can compare to the deep satisfaction of knowing we are walking a path of genuine growth. Humility also teaches us patience. It helps us understand that not everything is about us. So often, we take things personally, we assume that a comment, a look, a response is a reflection of us, when in reality, it often has nothing to do with us at all. A humble mind does not jump to conclusions. It does not demand attention. Instead, it observes. It absorbs. It responds with kindness rather than defensiveness. The world does not need more people fighting to be seen. It needs more people willing to step back, to lift others up, to listen deeply, and love fully. And yet, in practicing humility, we do not become invisible. On the contrary, we become the kind of people others are drawn to, the kind of people who inspire. Not by shouting their worth, but by simply living it. There is immense power in humility. It is the power of the ocean, vast and deep, moving with grace rather than force. It is the strength of the tallest trees, rooted firmly in the earth, not seeking attention but providing shelter and wisdom to those who come near. True humility is not about thinking less of ourselves, it is about thinking beyond ourselves. It is understanding that we are part of something greater. That our purpose is not to elevate our own importance but to contribute meaningfully to the world around us. In the end, humility is freedom. Freedom from the exhausting need for approval. Freedom from the insecurity that whispers we are not enough. Freedom from the endless chase of recognition that never truly satisfies. When we embrace humility, we find that the deepest fulfillment comes not from being admired, but from knowing we are living with integrity, with wisdom, and with an open heart. So, let us step away from the need to prove, and instead, step into the quiet confidence that comes from knowing that our worth is not measured by applause, but by the way we move through the world, with grace, with wisdom, and with humility. 3. Don't let others control your life. How often do we pause before making a decision? Not because we are uncertain, but because we are afraid of what others might say. How many dreams have been left untouched? Not because we lacked the ability to pursue them, but because we feared judgment. It is a quiet kind of suffering, the burden of living a life dictated by the expectations of others, of measuring our worth against the shifting standards of the world. But no matter how carefully we try to shape our lives to fit the approval of others, there will always be voices telling us that we are wrong, that we should be different, that we should choose another path. Some will question our decisions, others will doubt our abilities, and some will project their own fears onto us. Not out of malice, but because they themselves were once too afraid to take risks. If we live in constant pursuit of external validation, we will always be at the mercy of opinions that change like the wind. The Buddha's wisdom reminds us, do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. This is an invitation to live fully, to embrace the now, to be present in our choices without being shackled by the weight of external expectations. Living authentically means making decisions that resonate with our deepest truths. Even when those choices are met with skepticism, people will always have opinions about the way we live. But those opinions are not reflections of our truth, they are reflections of their own experiences, biases, and limitations. What may seem impractical or foolish to someone else may be the very thing that brings us meaning. Their fears do not have to become our fears. Their doubts do not have to define us. When we make choices from a place of fear, fear of disappointing others, fear of rejection, fear of stepping outside what is considered acceptable, we are not truly living. We are merely existing, moving through life as a reflection of what others expect, rather than as the person we were meant to become. But how do we break free from this cycle? It starts with self-awareness. The next time you feel hesitant, ask yourself, is this decision aligned with who I am? Not. Will this make others happy? Not. Will this be met with approval? But rather, does this choice bring me closer to the life I want to live? If the answer is yes, then that is the only validation you need. If the answer is no, then it is a sign to reassess, not based on external pressure, but based on your own inner compass. Walking your own path requires courage. It requires the willingness to stand in the face of doubt, to accept that not everyone will understand your choices, and to continue anyway. It requires trust that you know yourself better than anyone else. Trust that your journey is unfolding exactly as it should. Trust that your worth is not determined by how many people agree with you. Imagine standing at a crossroads, with countless people pointing in different directions, each insisting they know the best way. If you listen to every voice, you will remain frozen in place, paralyzed by indecision. But if you trust yourself, if you take even a single step forward in the direction that feels right to you, you will begin to carve a path that is uniquely yours. This does not mean ignoring wisdom or guidance. There is value in listening, in learning from those who have walked before us, But there is a difference between seeking insight and surrendering control. Advice can be helpful, but the final decision must always be our own. Freedom does not come from pleasing everyone. Freedom comes from the quiet confidence of knowing that you are living a life that is true to you. And the more you choose authenticity over approval, the stronger that confidence becomes. At the end of the day, the people who matter will not love you for the version of yourself that you create to please them. They will love you for who you truly are. And those who cannot accept that, their opinions were never meant to define you in the first place. You do not need permission to be yourself. You do not need validation to follow your dreams. The only person who has the power to decide what your life should look like is you. So take a deep breath. Let go of the expectations that do not serve you. Walk your path, not because it is the easiest, not because it is free of obstacles, but because it is yours. 4. Listen more than you speak. In a world filled with endless chatter, where voices compete to be heard, the power of true listening has become rare. We live in an age of instant responses, where silence is often mistaken for weakness, and where people listen just long enough to prepare their next words rather than to truly understand. Conversations have become battlegrounds of opinions rather than bridges of connection. But deep listening, the kind that comes not from waiting for our turn to speak, but from a genuine desire to understand, is one of the most profound gifts we can offer. Too often, when we engage with others, we are only half present. Our minds race ahead, preparing counter-arguments, formulating responses, deciding what we will say next. We nod in agreement, not because we truly grasp what is being said, but because we are eager to contribute our own thoughts. In doing so, we miss the deeper layers of what is being communicated, the emotions behind the words, the unspoken fears, the silent pleas for understanding. The Buddha's teaching to understand everything is to forgive everything holds a simple but powerful truth. When we listen deeply, we begin to see the world not just from our own perspective, but from the eyes of others. And with that understanding comes compassion. So much of human conflict, whether between individuals or entire nations, stems from an inability to listen, really listen, to one another. We assume we know. We judge before we understand. But if we could truly hear the pain, the fears, the insecurities behind people's words, how much more kindness would we be capable of? Listening is not just about receiving words, it is about opening our hearts. It is about creating a space where someone else feels seen, where their voice is valued, where they are not just heard but truly understood. Have you ever noticed how rare it is to meet someone who listens with their full attention? Someone who is fully present, not checking their phone, not glancing around the room, not waiting impatiently for their turn to speak. When we find such a person, we feel it instantly. We feel safe. We feel respected. We feel understood. And that feeling is priceless. But deep listening is not always easy. It requires patience. It requires us to set aside our own need to be heard, to silence the voice in our minds that constantly wants to interrupt. It requires humility, the willingness to admit that we do not always have the answers. That sometimes the greatest wisdom comes not from speaking, but from absorbing the wisdom of another. The next time you are in a conversation, pause. Resist the urge to fill the silence with words. Instead, focus entirely on the other person. Watch their expressions. Notice the tone of their voice, the emotions behind their words. Ask yourself, what is this person truly trying to say? And when they finish speaking, before you rush to respond, Take a moment. Let their words settle. Reflect on them. Only then, when you truly understand, should you speak. When we listen in this way, something remarkable happens. People begin to open up. They feel valued, respected, safe. They share their thoughts more honestly, knowing that they are not just speaking into empty space but into a heart that is ready to receive them. Friendships deepen. Relationships grow stronger. Misunderstandings dissolve before they have a chance to take root. But listening is not just about others. It is also about ourselves. How often do we stop to listen to our own hearts? How often do we quiet the noise of the world long enough to hear what our inner voice is telling us? We fill our lives with distractions, drowning out the whispers of our intuition. But if we truly listened, to others, to ourselves, to the silence between words, imagine the wisdom we could gain. In the end, listening is an act of love. It is a gift we offer to the world, one conversation at a time. It is an art, a practice, a path to wisdom and peace. And perhaps, if more of us chose to listen with open hearts, the world would be a softer, kinder place. 5. Accept the worst in life. Life is unpredictable. And no matter how carefully we plan, we cannot escape uncertainty. We spend so much time worrying about the unknown, fearing loss, failure, and disappointment, as if our anxiety could somehow shield us from pain. But the truth is, no amount of fear can prevent life from unfolding as it will. The only thing our resistance accomplishes is deepening our suffering. The Buddha's wisdom reminds us that suffering is not in the events themselves, but in our reaction to them. It is in our refusal to accept what is. We cling to the illusion of control, believing that if we hold on tightly enough, we can keep the things we love from slipping away. But life does not work that way. Everything is temporary: joy, sorrow, success, failure, love, loss. The more we resist this truth, the more we suffer. The moment we let go of the need for certainty, we open ourselves to peace. Pain is an inevitable part of life, but suffering is optional. We suffer because we believe things should be different from how they are. We believe life should be fair, that good things should last, that loss should not come when we are not ready. But life has its own rhythm, its own unfolding, independent of our desires. The more we accept this, the more freedom we find. Imagine a river flowing downstream. If we try to fight against the current, we exhaust ourselves, struggling in vain to hold our ground. But if we allow ourselves to flow with the water, we find ease. The river may be unpredictable, its course unknown, but in surrendering to it, we learn to move with grace instead of fear. Life is the same. We cannot always control where it takes us, but we can control how we move through it. When we embrace hardship instead of fearing it, we begin to see it not as something to be avoided, but as a teacher. Every challenge holds a lesson. Every loss deepens our understanding. Every failure builds resilience. The moments that break us also have the power to shape us into something stronger, something wiser. It is only through struggle that we learn what we are truly capable of. There is a profound strength in surrender. Not the kind of surrender that means giving up, but the kind that allows us to trust ourselves, to trust that we can handle whatever comes, because we can. Think back to every difficulty you have faced in your life. Every moment you thought you would not get through, and yet, you did. You survived. You grew. You learned. And you will continue to do so. Next time you find yourself caught in fear, worrying about the worst case scenario, pause. Instead of resisting, ask yourself, what if I could handle this? Because the truth is, you can. No matter what happens, you have the strength to endure it. You may not be able to control the outcome, but you can control your response. Acceptance does not mean passivity. It does not mean we do nothing in the face of adversity. It means we stop wasting our energy fighting reality and instead focus on what we can do. It means that when loss comes, we grieve fully, without resistance. When failure happens, we learn from it, without self-judgment. When life takes an unexpected turn, we adjust, without bitterness. There is a strange kind of peace that comes from accepting the worst. When we stop fearing loss, we become more present in our love. When we stop fearing failure, we take bolder steps. When we stop fearing the unknown, we begin to truly live. Worrying about what might happen does not change the future, it only steals our peace in the present. So, let go. Trust yourself. Life will happen as it will, with its joys and its pains, its triumphs and its sorrows, but through it all, you will remain. And that is enough. 6. Be aware of the dangers of fortune. We are taught from an early age that success is measured by what we accumulate. Society tells us that happiness is found in more wealth, more possessions, more achievements. We see it everywhere: the bigger house, the luxury car, the perfect career, the never-ending pursuit of status. And so we chase, believing that if we just had a little more, we would finally feel fulfilled. But how often does that moment actually come? How often do we reach a goal only to find ourselves immediately searching for the next one? The Buddha warned us of the dangers of attachment, especially to material things. Wealth itself is not the enemy. Money can provide comfort, security, and opportunities. But when we begin to define ourselves by what we own, when our happiness becomes dependent on external success, we step onto an endless treadmill, one where contentment is always just out of reach. We become trapped in a cycle of wanting, acquiring, and wanting more, never stopping to appreciate what we already have. There is nothing wrong with ambition, with working hard to create a stable and fulfilling life. But the question is, are we truly living? Or are we just accumulating? We spend so much time focused on getting more that we forget to ask if the things we are chasing are actually making us happy. A bigger house does not guarantee a warm home. A higher salary does not ensure peace of mind. More status does not necessarily mean more love, more joy, or more meaning. Imagine two people. One has vast wealth, a mansion filled with everything money can buy. Yet they feel empty inside, restless, constantly searching for the next thing to fill the void. The other has little but is deeply grateful for what they do have: good friends, meaningful work, moments of laughter, a sense of inner peace. Who is truly richer? Wealth is not measured by numbers in a bank account, it is measured by the quality of our lives, by the moments that make our hearts feel full. The danger of fortune is not in having it, but in becoming attached to it. When we believe that happiness is something external, something that must be earned, bought, or displayed for others to see, we lose sight of what truly matters. Life is not meant to be a constant race for more, it is meant to be lived fully and deeply, with appreciation for each moment. True happiness is found in simplicity, in gratitude, in the ability to wake up each morning and recognize that what we have is already enough. This does not mean we stop striving for a better life, but rather that we shift our perspective. Instead of focusing on what we lack, we focus on what we have. Instead of always reaching for more, we take a moment to appreciate the abundance that already exists within our lives. The simplest shift, moving from I need more to I am grateful for what I have, changes everything. It changes how we see the world, how we experience life, how we treat others. Gratitude turns the ordinary into something extraordinary. A simple meal becomes a blessing. A quiet moment with a loved one becomes a treasure. A day free of struggle becomes a gift. So many of the things we believe will make us happy are fleeting. Money comes and goes. Success rises and falls. Possessions wear out and lose their shine. But gratitude, love, inner peace, these are things that do not fade with time. They do not depend on status, on fortune, on what others think of us. They are found in the present moment, in the simple joys that exist all around us if only we take the time to notice. Life is too short to spend chasing things that will never truly satisfy. Instead of asking, "What more do I need?" ask, "What do I already have that I can cherish?" Instead of measuring your worth by your possessions, measure it by the love you give, the kindness you show, the joy you bring into the lives of others. True wealth is not in what we own but in how fully we live. 7. See failure as a stepping stone, not something to fear. Failure is a word that carries so much weight. Yet it is one of the most misunderstood concepts in life. From a young age, we are conditioned to fear it, to avoid it at all costs, as if failing is proof that we are not good enough. But what if failure was never meant to be an obstacle? What if it was meant to be a guide, a teacher, a stepping stone toward something greater? When we look at the most successful people in the world, we often see their achievements, but rarely do we see the countless failures that came before. We do not see the rejection letters, the mistakes, the moments of doubt when they considered giving up. But the truth is, every success story is built upon a foundation of failures. Those who achieve great things are not the ones who never fail, they are the ones who refuse to let failure define them. The Buddha's words, "Each morning we are born again." What we do today is what matters most. Remind us of an essential truth: failure is never final. It is not a life sentence, it is merely a moment, an experience, an opportunity to begin again. No matter how many times we fall, every new day gives us the chance to rise. What we do next matters more than what went wrong. But in order to truly embrace failure, we must change the way we see it. Instead of seeing it as an end, we must see it as a doorway. Every mistake we make is a lesson in disguise, a chance to grow stronger, wiser, more resilient. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" ask, "What can I learn from this?" Because growth does not come from avoiding failure, it comes from walking through it with open eyes, ready to learn. Imagine a child learning to walk. They take a step, stumble, fall. But do they give up? No. They get up and try again, and again, and again. They do not see falling as failure, they see it as part of the process. They do not judge themselves. They do not quit. They keep going, because they know, instinctively, that falling is how they learn to stand. Somewhere along the way, we forget this truth. We start to fear falling. We hesitate. We hold ourselves back. We convince ourselves that failing is worse than never trying at all. But that is a lie. The only true failure is refusing to take the first step. The fear of failure is often worse than failure itself. It keeps us trapped. Afraid to take risks. Afraid to step outside our comfort zones. But life was never meant to be lived in hesitation. It is in our challenges. In our struggles. In the moments when things do not go as planned that we discover our true strength. We find out what we are capable of, not when things are easy, but when we are forced to adapt. To push forward. To grow. Think about a time when you faced a setback. Maybe it was a rejection. A disappointment. A moment when you felt like you had let yourself down. At the time, it might have felt like the end of the world. But now, looking back, what did that experience teach you? Did it make you stronger? Did it lead you to something better? Did it reveal something about yourself that you might not have otherwise discovered? Failure often redirects us to something we never expected. But something that is exactly where we are meant to be. Sometimes, what seems like a door closing is actually life guiding us to a new path. One that we never would have found if everything had gone according to plan. The most important thing to remember is this: failure is temporary. But growth is permanent. Every failure holds a lesson. And that lesson is what stays with us long after the failure itself is forgotten. It shapes us, refines us, prepares us for what comes next. So the next time you fall short of your expectations, do not be discouraged. Instead, pause, breathe, look at the situation with curiosity rather than judgment. Ask yourself, what is this moment here to teach me? And then, when you are ready, take another step forward. Because every step, even the ones that feel like missteps, are part of the journey. You are not defined by the moments you fall. You are defined by the courage it takes to stand back up. 8. Always remember that death is waiting at the end of the road. Death is one of the few certainties in life. Yet it is the one thing most people refuse to think about. We push it aside, avoid discussing it, and pretend it is something far off in the distance. But ignoring death does not make it disappear, it only makes us live as if we have all the time in the world. And that illusion can be dangerous. It allows us to waste precious moments, to put off what truly matters, to act as if we are guaranteed another day, another chance, another lifetime. But we are not. The Buddha taught that contemplating death is not about fearing it but about embracing life fully. When we acknowledge the impermanence of existence, we begin to see with greater clarity. We stop taking things for granted. We stop delaying joy, postponing dreams, and waiting for the right time to live. We stop assuming we will have tomorrow to fix what is broken, to forgive, to love, to experience what our hearts truly long for. So much of our energy is spent chasing things we cannot take with us: money, possessions, titles, recognition. We build careers, amass wealth, accumulate material comforts, often at the expense of our peace, our health, and our relationships. But when we face the reality of our own mortality, we begin to ask different questions. What will really matter in the end? Will it be the size of our bank accounts or the depth of the connections we have formed? Will it be how many people admired us? Or how many people felt loved by us? If today were your last day, would you be content with how you lived? Would you regret the words left unsaid, the love withheld, the dreams never pursued? Would you wish for just one more chance to laugh, to hold someone close, to feel the sun on your skin? This is not a question meant to cause fear, but to inspire urgency, the kind of urgency that wakes us up to the beauty of the present moment. When we accept the temporary nature of life, we begin to cherish it differently. A simple conversation becomes meaningful. A shared meal becomes a memory. A quiet morning with a loved one becomes something sacred. We start to let go of petty grudges, of wasted hours spent in anger or resentment. We stop chasing things that will not matter in the end. And we start focusing on what will. Death is not something to be avoided or feared, it is something to be understood. It is a reminder that every breath is a gift. That every moment is an opportunity. When we truly grasp this, we stop postponing happiness. We stop assuming we will have time later to do what we love. We stop treating life as if it is endless, and begin treating it as the precious, fleeting miracle that it is. If you knew you had only a short time left, what would you do differently? Would you express more gratitude? Would you be kinder? Would you finally take the risks you have been afraid to take? Would you spend less time worrying about things that, in the grand scheme of life, do not matter? There is freedom in realizing that we do not control how much time we have. But we do control how we use it. And when we live with that awareness, everything changes. We stop letting fear hold us back. We stop waiting for permission to live the life we want. We stop wasting time on distractions and start embracing what is real. At the end of the road, no one wishes they had worked longer hours or won more arguments. They wish they had loved more, laughed more, spent more time with the people who mattered, lived with more courage and less hesitation, appreciated the small moments, the ordinary days that, in hindsight, were extraordinary. So do not wait. Do not assume there will be more time. Do not leave your dreams, your love, your gratitude locked away for another day that may never come. Live now. Love now. Be present now. Because life is happening. Right here. Right now. And this moment is all we are truly promised. Life is a journey. Unpredictable and ever-changing. Filled with joys and sorrows, triumphs and setbacks. Along the way, we encounter challenges that test our patience, people who provoke our emotions, and moments that shake our sense of stability. But within us, there is always a choice to react with anger or with understanding, to cling to fear or to embrace change, to be controlled by the outside world or to cultivate peace from within. These 8 Buddhist principles are not just abstract ideas, they are practices that can transform the way we experience life. They remind us that true strength is not about controlling everything around us, but about mastering ourselves. It is about letting go of what does not serve us, embracing the present moment, and choosing wisdom over impulse. With every step we take toward mindfulness, we move closer to a life that is lighter, freer, and more meaningful. Imagine what your days could feel like if you carried these teachings with you. If instead of reacting to negativity, you remained calm. If instead of chasing external validation, you found fulfillment within yourself. If instead of fearing failure, you saw it as an opportunity to grow. The power to live with peace and clarity has always been in your hands. The only question is, will you choose it? Take a deep breath. Let go of the worries that do not belong to you. Allow yourself to move forward with confidence. Not because life is perfect, but because you are learning to navigate it with wisdom and grace. The path to inner peace is not something given to us, it is something we cultivate. Step by step. Choice by choice. Moment by moment. Now. I would love to hear from you. Which of these lessons resonated with you the most? Have you had moments where these principles helped you find clarity? Share your thoughts in the comments below, I read every one. and your insights may inspire someone else on their journey. If you found this video meaningful, consider liking and sharing it with someone who might need these words today. And if you haven't already, subscribe for more reflections and insights that can help guide you toward a more peaceful, purposeful life. Thank you for spending this time with me. May you walk forward with wisdom, with courage, and with a heart that is open to all the beauty that life has to offer.